Our group is the muscular system, and we focused on Duchenne muscular dystrophy. To start off, some questions are: what is the muscular system? What does the muscular system do? And what is the muscular system made of? There are three types of muscular tissues throughout the body: skeletal, cardiac, and smooth muscle. Skeletal muscle tissues main function: skeletal, cardiac, and smooth muscle. Skeletal muscle tissue's main function is to move the bones of the skeleton. It is made up of striated muscle and is under voluntary control. Cardiac muscle tissue's main function is to pump blood with autorhythmicity in the heart only. This is made of striated muscle and is under involuntary control. Finally, smooth muscle tissue's main function is to move substances in hollow internal organs. This is made up of non-striated muscle and is under involuntary control. The primary function of muscle is to change chemical energy into mechanical energy to produce movement. Muscle tissues have a few special properties. One is the electrical excitability, which is the ability to produce electrical action potentials, also known as impulses, in response to certain stimuli. Another is contractility, the ability to shorten forcefully generating tension. The third is extensibility, the ability to stretch within limits without being damaged. The final special property is elasticity, or the ability to return to original length after contraction or extension. These special abilities are done to be able to perform the many functions that the muscular system performs. Muscles are made up of many different muscle fibers. These fibers are enclosed by a plasma membrane called sarcolemma. T-tubules, invaginated tunnel-like extensions inside the sarcolemma, help conduct impulses from the surface of the cell down into the cell and connects to the sarcoplasmic reticulum, where its main function is to store calcium ions. These sarcoplasmic reticulums surrounded by myofibrils. Myofibrils are organelles inside the sarcoplasm which contain glycagon and myoglobin. These myofibril filaments that make up a sarcolemma and perform the main function of muscle contraction and body movement.
There are many functions that this system is responsible for. The muscular system produces body movements, stabilizes body positions, and moves substances with the body and generates heat. This system is so important to the body because skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, and smooth muscle all take part in different organ systems and have different functions. Skeletal muscle's best known feature is the ability to contract and cause movement. The skeletal muscle has the ability to maintain stability in order to prevent structure damage or deformation. Skeletal muscles are located throughout the body at the openings of internal tracts to control the movements of various substances. These muscles allow functions such as swallowing, urination, and defecation to be under voluntary control. Another important function is that they contribute to the maintenance of homeostasis in the body by generating heat. This is because muscle contractions require an input of ATP, and when ATP is broken down, heat is produced. This is seen during exercise when the body temperature rises, and also seen in extreme cold when shivering produces random skeletal muscle contractions to generate heat. Cardiac muscles are specialized to control the contractions of the heart, which keeps your heart pumping through involuntary movements. This allows blood to pump into the vessels of the circulatory system and allows oxygen to flow throughout the body. Smooth muscle is also found in the urinary bladder, uterus, stomach, intestines, and in the walls of passageways, such as the arteries and veins of the circulatory system and the tracts of the respiratory and reproductive systems. All these systems are involved in maintaining homeostasis and make sure.
One of the disruptions of homeostasis that we focused on was Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which is a heterogeneous genetic muscle disorder. It is an X-linked recessive disorder caused by an out-of-frame mutation in the dystrophin protein. The dystrophin protein's main functions include the stabilizing of a muscle cell's membranes and acts as a shock absorber during the contraction of a muscle, as well as the linking of the internal cytoskeleton to the extracellular mixture. Since this is an X-linked recessive disorder, it is seen more in males rather than females, for the reason being that females have two X genes, and they essentially would have X genes, and they essentially would have one that you could fall back on, whereas males are only coded with one X gene, causing a complete chance of gaining the Duchenne muscular dystrophy trait. So essentially saying that 2/3 of the recorded diagnoses of DMD are X-linked, and 1/3 is often spontaneous, which is usually where the female diagnosis occurs, is first being seen that begins at the ages of 1 or 2. This is due to the beginning of an abnormal permeability and fragility of the cellular membrane. Many times, it is often seen as a symptom of DMD to walk at a later age, and once you begin to walk, you have a funny gait and it is harder to run. And as aging occurs in DMD patients, you slowly start to lose muscle function, which is cellularly seen as a decrease in muscle fibers. Then you can begin to be very clumsy and have spinal problems such as scoliosis. To this day, DMD is incurable, and there are many studies constantly being done around the world to try to cure dystrophy, which happens to be the most common form of muscular dystrophies to exist. Many of the common attempted ways to help DMD patients is to try to maintain full range of motion continually throughout their diagnosis until they are wheelchair bound.
Like it was previously stated, Duchenne muscular dystrophy is caused by a change in the dystrophin gene, which causes a disruption in homeostasis for the muscular system. Dystrophin is part of a complex group of proteins that allow muscles to work together correctly. The protein helps connect different components within the muscles cells together and links them all to the sarcolemma. It essentially makes up for a very small amount of the total proteins in saturated muscle, but it is an important molecule for the general functioning of muscles. This protein allows to contract and relax without damaging muscles and muscle fibers themselves, and without the presence of dystrophin, muscles in the body aren't able to repair themselves or function properly. Because the normal function of muscles become impaired due to DMD, the muscle membrane become prone to damage, which leads to micro tears appearing in the cell membrane. These tears allow calcium through, which replaces the damaged muscle with scar tissue and fat. This then leads to loss of strength and function. For some cases, the body is able to regenerate some muscle fibers, but as the process of muscle damage continues, the body has a harder time regenerating and more muscle fiber is lost. As the condition progresses, more complications can develop with the cardiovascular and respiratory system. Weakness and deterioration of the heart, otherwise known as cardiomyopathy, can result in irregular heartbeats, inability of the heart to pump blood, and the heart failure. For the respiratory system, there can be a deterioration of the rib cage. This can lead to respiratory infections, breathing difficulties, and in the worst conditions, respiratory failure. It is also found that the lack of dystrophin in children can have an effect on their neurons. This leads to challenges with brain function that include attention, memory, learning, and speech. Along with this abnormal brain activity, children are also more prone to having seizures.
Duchenne muscular dystrophy is primarily found in men and not women because it is an X-linked pattern because the dystrophin production gene is located on the X chromosome. It is primarily found in men because the Y chromosome lacks the gene to produce dystrophin naturally, so when they have the gene mutation on their X chromosome, neither chromosome has the gene to produce dystrophin. Women don't show symptoms of DMD because of their two X chromosomes. If one gene has a mutation, then the other usually produces enough and the female will be unaffected by the mutation. Though women are usually unaffected, they can still be carriers of the mutated gene, passing it on to their offspring. If the mother is a carrier, her son will have a 50% chance of having DMD because he could get the mutated or non-mutated X chromosome. And if the affected mother has a daughter, then she as well has a 50% chance of becoming a carrier. If a father has DMD, then his son will have no chance of getting it because the gene he passes on the Y chromosome. But an affected father will pass on the affected gene to his daughter since she will receive her father's only X chromosome, which will make her a carrier. Most carriers don't experience symptoms of DMD but can experience some muscle weaknesses.
However, a minority of females with a mutation called manifesting carriers have some signs and symptoms of DMD. The only way a female can show the same symptoms as a male, which is extremely rare, is if the woman is lacking a second X chromosome entirely or the chromosome has had serious damage. So the only one healthy chromosome will carry the gene and not have a source of dystrophin production. So she will be making little or none. This is the main reason that the male population is affected primarily over the female population. It is extremely rare for women to show symptoms of disease like men, however, they are carriers.
Duchenne muscular dystrophy is a rare muscle disorder that affects 1 in every 3,500 male births, making the number of cases a startling 2,500,000 worldwide. Therapy for muscular dystrophies are based on treatment of symptoms and supportive care. Exploring the variety of these cases across the globe can help to distinguish how widespread the disorder really is. Through animal testing of pigs and dolphins, the first drug for Duchenne muscular dystrophy was released in Europe. But since DMD is such a rare disorder, clinical trials have to be recruited from several different to gain some statistical accuracy. After some research done by recent calculations of the German population, there seems to be a high prevalence of DMD in Germany. An estimated 1,900 males have DMD in Germany. It is important to gain knowledge as to where the disorder is most prevalent, so healthcare quickly for the disorder. A quantitative literature analysis was conducted on DMD from 1991 to 2015. The objective of this study was to observe how the disorder is seen through global trends. The results of the study concluded that there were patients with this genetically inherited disorder across 31 countries. The study also presented data that suggested a mutation-specific variability in geographical location. Due to these results, scientists were able to more accurately predict the